You are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue, Thursday, October 3rd. Welcome to October. We got a lot to talk about. We're going into week 5 of the NFL season now. Storylines are developing everywhere. We have to touch on some of these because some big organizations are starting to lose. We're kind of starting to figure out who has been a pretender thus far, and we will continue to figure that out as we move through the season here. But we're going to start things off with a discussion on the Philadelphia Eagles. They did not look great. Losing to Tampa Bay, but we will get to that first. More specifically, Jalen Hurts going to be the subject of discussion there. We're going to move into hits and misses, and then into the top 10 teams. So another temperature check. Our top 10 teams going into week 5. How have things looked thus far? And then into the second segment, we have our week 5 predictions and our week 5 bets on a budget. The 5 best lines that we could find from around the league for your money. So we'll give you that full list there. We're hitting at a 53% clip right now, at least over 500, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, coming off a 3-2 week, feels good to get back in the win column. Had a rough week. What was that, 3? So
yeah, week 3, but we don't talk about that one.
To see week 4 rebound, it's good to see them. It's like in basketball, you see one down.
Absolutely.
It's good to see.
I was in golf actually over the weekend.
Sometimes you just got to put the ball at 1 foot, put it in. Just got to see one down. See one down.
For sure. Guys, we appreciate you being here no matter how you're joining us, watching on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Prime Video, or listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and the iHeartRadio app. So we appreciate you being here.
I just think it's interesting. I came out probably 2 years ago. It was right before the Eagles went on a Super Bowl run, and obviously the take didn't age well that season. But I said I wouldn't be surprised if Gardner Minshew starts games today or this year because I don't think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. Now, obviously, I think he is a good quarterback now. But you look back at the take and you're like, I feel like it's not that crazy looking back now. Now, I'm going to preface it by saying I'd rather have Jalen on my team. He provides more with his legs. I think he's a better leader of men. He clearly wins more. Despite the situation, whether it be coaching or players or injuries, he clearly wins more than Gardner. He's a better player than Gardner Minshew. I would have paid him more than I pay Gardner Minshew. Probably not what he makes now, but despite that, Jalen's a better player. But you think it's crazy. Take last year, so post-Super Bowl last year and so far 4 games this year, the same guy basically, right? I mean, Jalen's a little bit better at everything. Just a little bit better. Now, granted, the legs aside, just throwing the ball, same guy. Gardner completes 64% of his passes. Jalen 66. Gardner throws for exactly 200. Jalen's at 225, 226. Same guy. Both have about a 1.5 touchdown to interception ratio. Gardner started less games, so he has less touchdowns, but he also has less picks. Jalen is turning the ball over at a clip that leads the league the last year and this year combined. And they both have a pass rating mid to high 80s, right? 80, 86 almost for Gardner, almost 89 for Jalen. Same guy. Right, so we can sit here and be like, oh, Gardner's down here and Jalen's up here. You're right, Jalen's ahead of Gardner. But to say that he's a significantly better player post Shane Steichen than Gardner Minshew is crazy, right? And actually Gardner had Shane Steichen last season in Indianapolis. But this idea that Jalen Hurts is the star quarterback and he belongs in this top 5, with your Mahomes and your Allen and your Lamar is simply not the case. To me, he's not a top 12 quarterback. I have him somewhere anywhere between 14 and 18 on a given week. He's very matchup dependent. And people think that's a crazy thing to say. That's what most guys in this league are. That's everybody from Goff to Kirk to Dak to Derek Carr to guys that you even think are a little bit better like a Jared Goff or even Lamar early in his career. Now, granted, Lamar's kind of matured out of that where you feel like you're getting the same guy every week. But Lamar, when he was younger, very matchup dependent. Plays anybody in the AFC North? Yeah, well, it's gonna be a slugfest. He's not gonna look like he did on Sunday night, right? So it's not like I'm saying, oh, Jalen's this awful player, you can't win with Jalen. But look post Shane Steichen. He's a guy that needs the right situation. He's the guy that needs the right matchup. He needs things to go right around him, and that's not indicative of a player that you pay $50+ million to. For $50+ million, You create the right situation. Mahomes creates the right situation. Mahomes is why Andy Reid is on commercials, why Patrick Mahomes is on commercials, why you can sign this guy and that guy, and why you can trade Tyreek Hill and get really young and really good on defense and still maintain a cheap defense because you're paying Mahomes, because you're paying Kelsey, because you're paying Chris Jones. Right? Because Mahomes creates that environment. I mean, yes, obviously Reid and the organization help, but Mahomes creates the right situation. Brady created the right situation with Edelman and Welker and Amendola and throwing to just anybody. Chris Hogan was a lacrosse player in college. He looked good for a couple years because Brady creates the right situation. Jalen needs the situation created, and that brings up the second point of this, is that he's not in the right situation. Philly has not fostered the right situation for Jalen Hurts. And you can blame whoever you want. I actually think Howie Roseman's fantastic. I would probably start with Nick Sirianni, and I would start with your coordinator decisions. I think Kellen Moore is fine, but clearly we have not found the right fit for Jalen in terms of the coaching staff since Shane Steichen left. You can see the precipitous... His passer rating that season was up around 100, if not over it, and now it's down to 88. Right? Like, we see the issue there. There's a massive drop-off post-Shane Steichen, so clearly he is not in the right situation. And again, blame who you want. You could probably start with Sirianni. You could start with the coordinator decisions. If you want to go to Roseman for making those hires in terms of coordinators, that's fine by me. This isn't an anti-Jalen rant. This is a, hey, let's have a real discussion on what Jalen Hurts is as a player and what he needs to succeed, because we saw him succeed. I'm not saying you can't win a Super Bowl with Jalen. He outplayed Mahomes in that Super Bowl. You can win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, absolutely. But not with him making $50+ million. Not with this coordinator. Not with that head coach, probably. Right? Like, you can win with him, but there needs to be... You have this. Like, there is a checklist of things you need, and I don't think he has that right now, and that's why you're seeing Philadelphia. I mean, hell, Tampa Bay had 254 yards of offense. Philly had none at one point in the first half. None. How is that possible? 3 straight 3-and-outs, 0 total yards, and Tampa Bay goes score, 21-0. You got no yards of total offense, and Baker and the Bucs have 254. I mean, it's absurd. So I can sit here and bag on Jalen all I want, but in reality, we saw him be successful. I'm not saying you can't be successful with Jalen Hurts, because you absolutely can, but clearly there is something off in the recipe right now, because he is not successful. The team is not successful. I think it was a mistake paying him this much money, but I still think Jalen Hurts is a fine player. Clearly, there's a disconnect with the coaching staff and him.
Yeah, I was gonna hammer home the coaching staff side of things. That relationship, we've seen it be. I mean, it's just been full of turmoil the entire time. Even Philadelphia fans, diehard Philadelphia fans, don't love Sirianni. I can't really find the group of people that are really sticking up for the guy at this point. His relationship with the players is horrific. Just the connection with the players, there seems to be absolutely nothing. And the Eagles look completely lackluster right now. There is nothing going on there, where at the beginning of the season they had a ton of talent, and it's like, okay, like, yeah, I can see how this team's going to win. At least make a playoff bid. And now through week 4, like a way too early prediction here, I don't think the Eagles make the playoffs. Like, I'm just sitting here like, I don't understand how this becomes a playoff team.
I feel like they probably win a playoff game, or win enough games to make the playoffs, just because they're so talented. But I don't think it's crazy to say. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I don't think you're crazy.
I don't know. I'm not big on them right now. Yeah. Glaring issues.
Fair enough.
Anyway, guys, hits and misses time. Let's jump right into that.
All right, hit number 1 here. Look, I don't want to be that guy. Stats tell a good picture, of course, but sometimes you got to watch the game. And I'll tell you
every time you have to watch the game, yeah.
I'll tell you what. I think Caleb Williams is putting it together. He looks more comfortable. He looks like his feet are under him a little bit more. He looks more decisive. They actually were able to run the football a little bit. I've been questioning the coaching staff in Chicago. There was at least a plan. They followed it. They executed it. There was a good run game. Caleb looked more comfortable. We were on schedule as an offense. I thought that was, despite the one game he threw for 360-something yards last week, this past week was, I thought, his best game yet as a pro.
Okay, I will agree with you. The looks-wise, when you watch the game, it looks like it's getting better. The thing that I worry about, and when the stats are this bad,
They were not this bad this week, though.
So no.
Oh, you have one.
On catches or on throws over 10 yards, he's 14 for 43, and he 0 touchdowns, 3 picks. That's a problem.
So it's definitely not ideal, and here's what
14
really,
for 43.
Here's what bothers me big time about that is that he has a big play target in DJ Moore. Like, DJ Moore can go out and make those big plays.
Yeah.
So to not be able to hit any of those is puzzling. That's fair.
The no touchdowns to 3 picks thing worries me. So, like, yes, I agree. The stats don't tell the entire story, but when they are this bad, it's worth looking into.
Sure.
Give me that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Number 1 here, actually to what has been the better rookie quarterback thus far, Jaden Daniels. I didn't think Washington would be this good as a team, and I didn't think Jaden Daniels would be this good as an individual player. You asked me this right before we went on the air. What team would you least want to face right now? They're on your schedule. I'm like, well, it depends what team I am, but if I'm just an average middle of the road, I'm the Steelers. Washington's at least in the discussion, right? Like, that's a bad matchup. If your defense has a hole on it, that's a really bad matchup for you. That's one of the more fun teams over the past couple weeks in the NFL.
Look, I agree. The Commanders are a buzzsaw right now. I'm not really sure what to think of them when it comes to comparing them against the rest of the league. Like, I need to see more. But that defense is good.
They've punted like once in 3 games. Like, give me a break. That's absurd.
Jaden Daniels is the best rookie quarterback. I said that. Is he not?
You're right.
Thus far.
Yes, that's just because I don't view Caleb as a rookie anymore because he's just so much better than everybody else. So I just,
Jaden Daniels, number 1, though.
Yeah. Hit number 2 here. I would be the Jets. We didn't buy into the Jets at the beginning, and even when everybody's freaking out about how they beat the Patriots, I'm like, it's what, week 2 or week 3? It's the Patriots, are the worst team in football. That you did what you were supposed to do. But when they face anybody that can actually punch them in the mouth a little bit, do they have a counter punch? And clearly the answer was no. It was raining and it was windy. Whatever. Bo Nix went through for 60 yards. You're at home. That's a game you have to win.
And Aaron played in Green Bay his entire career.
Hall of Fame quarterback. Good roster. I think it's overrated, but it's still a good roster. Probably, I would argue, better than Denver. And you're at home. That's a game you have to win. The game you have to win.
The rain, the elements should not be a problem for Aaron when it comes to throwing the football. And plus, I was going to add, did he not look old? He just looked...
See, I thought he moved really well, but he looks old because he was picking himself up off the turf 15 times this past Sunday.
Yeah,
so I actually thought Aaron wasn't awful, just given the conditions, given the awful play from the offensive line. Like, he showed a lot of heart, a lot of toughness. But at the end of the day, he didn't produce. So, heart and toughness only gets you so far.
Still an L on the on the scorecard there.
Absolutely, yeah. Miss number 2 here. I was an avid Deshaun Watson guy right when this podcast first started. I thought it was an upgrade over Baker, but I was like, it's not really that much of an upgrade. I don't think it's a huge move, especially with all the personal stuff off the field. I was like, that seems like a bit of a crazy contract for somebody I'm not 100% sure about.
I was going to say, you didn't love the price point.
I didn't love the price point. I thought he was as a player, an upgrade over Baker Mayfield. He's not even, cost aside, he's not even effective as a player. No. Like, he's not, it's not that he's just a bad bargain in terms of finances. He's just a bad player regardless of what you're paying. I don't care if I'm paying him Brock Purdy's salary. He's just a bad player.
I mean, and the thing is, you have the weapons. So, like, it's not like you can blame him and say, oh, well, Deshaun's throwing to deck furniture. That's just not the case either. Like, he has the guys to throw to.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Jerry Jeudy guy, but he's at least a good number 2. Like, he's at bare minimum a league average number 2. Amari Cooper's at bare minimum league average number 1.
He struggles to get the ball to Amari Cooper, though. That's the problem.
Trust me, he's on my fantasy team. I'm well aware of that. It's been bad. We're in shambles a little bit. About to go to 1-3.
Oh, God.
I mean, give me a friggin' break,
Tough start, huh?
Tough start. But anyway, hit number 3 here. What we did say, though, was Jordan Love and the Packers. Like, I feel like Jordan's going to be... Is it fair to assume he's going to be a little rusty, right? Like, I think it was fair to assume this is why we both took Minnesota, even though they were 2.5-point underdogs on the road at Lambeau, even though we think they're a better team. I said, well, if I get Malik Willis, I'm getting a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. If we get Jordan Love to start, I'm getting a fresher, hotter quarterback in Sam Darnold, where Jordan Love, he's coming off an injury. Is he going to be rusty? He only got a half a game under his belt to start the year anyway, so are there still some offseason rust? Yeah. Is there the injury rust? Like, that's kind of what we expected, and that's exactly what we saw. Towards the end, they figured it out, but the first half was awful. You could see there was clear rust, and they needed to get the juices flowing a little bit on offense.
Yeah, and we still haven't really even seen that big of a sample size out of Jordan Love yet. Well, he has a year under his belt.
And for the first half of last year, it wasn't good either.
No, so that's why I wasn't a big fan of his contract in general when he became the highest paid quarterback in the league. I scratched my head a little bit. Now, looking at it, it's like, can they be good when he's playing really good? Yeah, but the problem is I haven't really seen him play all that well outside of half a season, and then he gets signed for this, so... Look, if I was in Green Bay, I'd be a little bit worried. I'd want some more proof before I was diving in full on this quarterback.
See, I'm fine with paying because I think he will be that guy. I think it's one of those where they're taking a chance, and I think it's going to work. And it's Green Bay. They kind of figured out quarterbacks. I said this when they signed him. I'm like, I'm just going to trust Green Bay with quarterbacks. I trust Pittsburgh to draft wide receivers that we don't need to go first round wide receivers because we find them in the 6th. I'm going to trust Green Bay with quarterbacks until I'm proven wrong. I'll die on the hill of being wrong, trusting Green Bay with quarterbacks. I think they figured it out with 3.
That's fair. I'm saying there's something to be worried about, though. You need to see. You still need to see the
progression.
progression.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I would have loved to see more sample size too, but it is what it is. Miss number 3 here. I still am buying stock in Buffalo. I said it at the beginning of the year, I'm buying stock in Buffalo. Everyone was selling it when they got rid of Stephon Diggs. I'm like, I'll buy every stock you're selling of Buffalo. I still am winning the division. I still think they're going to be a really good football team. And they were, but I think the weakness that we do it every year is we get too high or too low on the Bills. And I think for a split second, we got a little bit too high on the Bills, and Baltimore humbled them. We do it every year, though. Yeah, we do it every year.
Yeah,
and I think there was an overcorrection this offseason.
You've been buying more Bill stock than I have recently. I've been selling mine. You've been buying it up. I'm just not. I don't know. I'm not sold on this team. We saw them be extremely. They were stagnant against Baltimore.
Yeah, no. And like I said, this happens every year where they come out, they look really good. They're almost like a better version of Dallas, right? Dallas is going to come out and smack the Giants twice. They're going to come out and smack Carolina. But against good teams, they're not going to look very good. Now, Buffalo is, I think, better because they will beat good teams. But every now and then, every 4th week, every 5th week, they're going to give you a game where they don't look very good.
It's just the issues, the problem areas were highlighted this week. That's where it raised concerns for me. It's okay, now they see a real opponent. Baltimore is a team that we think is going to do very well this year. We have them winning the AFC North.
We're going to talk about just how well we have them doing in about 2 minutes, but yeah.
It's just it's something that concerns me a bit.
I think it is fair to say that Baltimore put, if you want to call it a blueprint, on tape for other teams on kind of how do we keep Josh Allen in this little corral, this playpen over there, and how do we score on the defense, which they don't have the big names that they did a couple years ago, but it's still a good defense.
I mean, it just scares me that Buffalo still can't run the ball. That's what it's coming down to. I mean, they couldn't run the ball at all. So
far this year they have. That game would be an outlier, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah. Fair.
Got to beat the best.
Sure.
Anyway, guys, it's time. We're going to see where these teams fall. The top 10 teams, we're going to do it every 3 weeks, we decided?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Every 3 weeks is the quarterbacks.
Okay, every 2 weeks. So here's our second installment of the season. The top 10 NFL teams as they stand right now going into week 5. Let's go.
So we'll also kind of tell you where they slid from. Pittsburgh at number 10. I don't love what the defense put on tape yesterday, but on the flip side, I know Justin made a couple mistakes. Sorry, not yesterday, Sunday. I know Justin made mistakes. But I feel like the positive outweighs the mistakes right now. Like throwing over the middle, throwing down the field, saw the field a little bit better, able to use his legs, especially in the red zone. Like I think what we saw out of Justin outweighed the mistakes. And I think if we're looking over the course of a season, we expect the defense to be better as opposed to letting up 27 at Joe Flacco. Mm-hmm. So the question is Justin Fields, and I think he answered some questions.
He definitely did, but my biggest concern, I'm going through these teams, and especially towards the bottom, trying to find their biggest weakness. The Steelers right now, in my eyes, is that offensive line. There seems to be no semblance of any sort of anybody knowing what they're doing. It's bad. Broderick Jones seems to be a miss. He can't block anybody.
Now Daniels is hurt. James Daniels.
It's just... That's my problem on the Steelers right now. Justin Fields is answering the questions that I want answered.
Yeah.
He's making high-level throws. He's putting the ball in tight windows. Like, we're seeing everything we need to see from Justin Fields.
We're seeing progression, too, which is important for me. I know he regressed a little bit with a couple turnovers in the last couple games, but...
He's also running for his life. That's a problem.
Sure, and then that's stupid. How do we have such a bad quarterback-center exchange? That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
But anyway, number 9, Tampa Bay. They slid about 3 spots from last week. They were at number 6, or 2 weeks ago, in the last ranking we did. Look, here's a couple things to like about Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield's playing fantastic. I still think they have a good roster. They may have one of the most underrated receiving duos in the league with Evans and Godwin. Mm-hmm. Bucky Irving's been a nice addition to the backfield. Rashad White. They still don't run the ball as well as I'd like them to, but it's been better as of late. I know they lost a couple games there, week 2 and 3. But what they put on tape, we don't think highly of Philly, but we still think Philly's at least a good team. They may not be a top 10 team, but they're top half of the league team. Probably 15, 16-ish. And they, at one point, they were outgaining them 251 yards, or 254 yards to none. I mean, that's wildly. That game was not close.
No.
That game was over in the first 3 drives.
It was. And Baker has looked very, very good this year. Top of the league in quarterback play when you really look at it.
Top 5, probably. Top 10, maybe.
Yeah, I would say, I would argue
10.
top 5, except that he just had that one game where it was a little bit bad.
Sure.
And with such a small sample size right now. So, yeah, definitely at least top 10 quarterback play. I like what I see in Tampa. 9 feels right.
Number 8 would be Washington. Now, they weren't ranked this past week. I don't want to overreact, right? I think some people are going to have them higher. Maybe 8 is an overreaction to begin with.
I don't think so.
I'm interested. Here's the good news. The offense is unbelievable, and Jaden Daniels is way ahead of schedule from what we thought he would be. It's not like we thought he was a project, but I mean, having one of the best games that a rookie quarterback has had in the history of the league is ahead of schedule for pretty much everybody ever. So He's ahead of schedule. Clearly, you found a good offensive coordinator that gelled with him and Cliff Kingsbury. Dan Quinn's a good coach, especially the defense. They have actually, you can see market improvement over Ron Rivera, who's also a defensive coach, so that's good improvement. My main concern and why I don't want to overreact and why they are not higher, if anybody's thinking that or asking that question, would be, so you beat Cincinnati, who doesn't have a good defense, and it was Arizona, whose defense has been a sieve. So, like, I think I just want to put context in it that those are probably 2 of the bottom 5 defenses in football.
No, I
agree.
So,
so yes, you did score a lot of points. I think your offense is good, but, like, we're not going to rely on Jaden to put up almost 40 every week, right? That is not sustainable. Those teams are bad defenses.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not sustainable, but at the end of the day, you see the framework. The writing is on the walls. He's going to be a great quarterback. Like I have no doubt that he's going to be a very, very good quarterback, a franchise quarterback in this league.
I agree.
So I think 8 feels right for now, but this is one of the teams that is very volatile and can shoot up the list, but also fall off here in the next time we do this ranking.
I very much agree. Number 7 would be the Niners. They slid 3 spots from the 4 slot last week. Now, they go out and throttle New England, but the same discussion is, what does throttling New England really do for me, right, in terms of, like, how I view them? And I know Brock Purdy played well in that loss to the Rams, but you can't be up 10 with, 7 to go and lose the football game. So the collapse loss against the Rams to me was pretty eye-opening, especially because they didn't have any of their big stars, and it's like, well, they may not. Like, CMC is Achilles tendonitis in both Achilles at this point. George Kittle's always banged up. Deebo Samuel, he's healthy, but he's playing but not healthy. Brandon Ayuk's been almost a non-factor this year. It's like, yeah, they have stars, but are they going to show up and play?
Yeah, and that's the thing I can't figure out either. This is one of the most confusing teams to look at because you see it on paper, and everything tells you that this team should be top 5.
And they're still playing well. They're still not a bad team.
No, but like you see these issues popping up, and it's like, really, with this coach, with this team, we thought of them of having so much depth. Oh, they have so much depth. They have a great second receiver, a great 3, a really good 4. You have all this tight end talent. Then why does everything seem to come to a halt right now?
Sure.
Like, what's going on?
It's a fair question. Number 6 would be the Texans. They slide 4 slots because I can't unsee the Vikings loss. That was a throttling. But what I did see was a team that showed a lot of fight against Jacksonville, a team that showed a lot of grit, which for a young team, to me that's important when you have a young team, especially a young quarterback. Those come from behind victories, those tough fourth quarters, those, hey, this is the NFL, we play close games here type of quarters, right? Like, where, hey, Jacksonville sucks. Like, they're not very good. They're 0-4 now. At that time, 0-3. But you're finding yourself in a dogfight. You're in a divisional matchup. It is an absolute war out there. Can you go get it done? And they did. And to me, that's really important. So I still think they're number 6 feels right.
Yeah, and C.J. Stroud, he didn't impress as much last week, but this week kind of brought it back. I was like, okay, this is the guy I remember.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Number 5 would be the Lions. I think it's the best. It is the best running back duo in football.
Easily.
And Jared Goff, when protected, which he is with one of the best offensive lines in football, can deliver one of the best deep throws in football. Just accurate, stable, grown-up adult at quarterback. I don't love some of the decision-making situationally, right? Going for it on 4th down or not kicking a field goal here from Dan Campbell, but they have an identity, they stick to it, and they're a good football team. They had 5.
Yeah, and the defense, solves a lot of the problems too. We saw it on Monday Night Football when they had the fumble recovery for damn near a touchdown, took it back to 10 or something like that.
For sure.
But that's a big factor as well. A Dan Campbell coach defense can't go wrong.
Number 4, the Vikings. They climb 3 spots, one of the highest risers on the list this week. So here's where I'm going to say that, but I'm going to say this here. Could they fall out of the top 10 by the next time we do this? Because I like Sam Darnold, but he is liable to turn into a pumpkin at any minute.
That's true.
Any minute.
That's very true.
The Saints were on this list at one point. Some had them in the top 3. Not us, but other people had them in the top 3. Are they in anybody's top 12 right now?
No.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not. So I would say they're a good football team. I like what I see from Brian Flores. I like what I see from Sam Darnold, but they could fall very quickly.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Number 3, the Bills. Let's not overreact to that one loss. That's a good football team. Josh Allen should still probably be the favorite for MVP. I know that the run game was iffy on Sunday night, but sorry, can't think of a word. Wide scope, like whole picture. Mm-hmm. James Cook's a really good running back. They're fine.
It just worries me when Josh Allen has to do too much, when he has to take too much into his hands. That's the only thing that could go wrong with this team.
It's fair. Number 2, the Ravens. They weren't even ranked this past week. Now, to be fair, I think they were, 11th? I think we had them in 11th. They were in the discussion.
But they started slow.
For 11, 12, 13. They were 0-2 at the time when we ranked them last.
Yep.
They're now 2-2, and that was a classic ass whooping of Buffalo. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
It was.
That was an absolute ass whooping. They ran the football whenever they wanted to. They did whatever they did. They did whatever they wanted through the air. The defense held Josh Allen in check. They stopped the run. They made them be Josh Allen reliant, and were still able to contain him. That's a good football team. We had a feeling that they were going to be somewhere this high.
For sure.
You're shocked by the slow start. I am not surprised with them at 2 now.
Yeah, this is a team that I believed in a lot to start the season. Lamar is a great quarterback, and it was evident. Like all the pieces for Baltimore really showed out on Sunday night. So it made sense.
Chiefs at 1. We said that until they get dethroned, till they lose, till they do something to show me that they are not just going to keep consistently winning, they're going to be at number 1 because they've earned that right. They've earned the benefit of the doubt.
Fair.
And they may not be perfect, but as Nick Wright says, they're good at this one little thing. It's crazy. They're good at winning football games, right? So that matters. That matters. I'm gonna agree with that.
Putting W's in the win column. That's really all that matters in this league. You do that enough, you'll be just fine.
I know there's gonna be a ton of comments asking these questions. So, what would be the next 4 out, right? Who's on the cut line? People are gonna be like, what about Seattle? What about Atlanta, Green Bay, and Chicago? Those would be the next 4 out. Seattle, Atlanta, Green Bay, Chicago. You're not a huge Chicago guy, but I think a top 5 defense belongs somewhere in the discussion for top half of the league.
That's fair. Run us back through the list of the top 10.
Chiefs at 1, Ravens at 2, Bills, Vikings, Lions rounding out the top 5 respectively. Titans, Niners 6 and 7, Washington, Tampa, and Pittsburgh 8, 9, and 10.
Well, there you go. That's what the league looks like right now. Entering week 5, mark it, book it, save it. Let's see how correct we can be in the long run here. But guys, you can go check that out on the Instagram, theissuesports.com. We'll get you there. So stick around. We have more to talk in the second segment. We're going to be all week 5 predictions and bets on a budget.
All right, welcome back in. Second segment, the issue. If you missed the first segment, make sure you go back, check out whether it be those standalone videos or go back on Spotify or iHeart and go listen to those first couple, or that first segment, those first couple things that we did. Of course, we talked a little bit about Jalen Hurts, the Eagles, what's going on there. We did our hits and misses, and we did our top 10 NFL teams that we do every other week, with the Chiefs being one. That's the only spoiler I'll give. Go watch the rest of that video. Here we have the predictions for Week 5. I'm 0-4. Like, I suck. Like, I am almost clinched to lose for the season already. Like, it's bad. It's very not good. But we're taking some risks today. 7 more splits. So.
I don't know about clinch to lose just yet.
No, nine would be that. But
you need to get a win here.
You gotta have this one. Gotta have it. Can't go 0-5. I think I can recover from 0-4. Can't go 0-5 though. I think 0-5 would be a dagger. 0-5, I'm going to start predicting the Panthers every week and just hope I guess right.
Something hits.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Guys, no matter how you've got to this point, we appreciate you being here. Go check out the website, theissuesports.com. It is a wealth of information for everything with the show. So you can find, all the links to the social medias, all of our recent posts. Follow along. It's fantastic, theissuesports.com. So without further ado, let's go. We have the Week 5 predictions, every pick for every game. Here we go.
All right, we're going to actually start off on Thursday night, and we are starting off with a split. Here we have Falcons hosting the Bucks. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to go with the home Falcons. They're actually a 1.5-point favorite. I feel like I am getting, at bare minimum, equal quarterback play. Is that fair? I think I'm getting equal. You don't think that's fair?
No.
You don't think Baker and Kirk are close to equal?
Baker is way better at this point.
Way better is nuts. No, I think I get almost equal quarterback play. I get the home team. So, yeah, I'll go with the Falcons.
Okay, I'm going Bucks. It's because of everything we've talked about so far up until this point in the show. I like the Bucks just overall as a football team right now. The quarterback plays better. I would just say that the team in general is better in Tampa Bay, so I'm going to go with them.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll both take the Vikings over the Jets. They're at home. I don't think the Jets are fantastic. I think the Vikings are a much better team.
No, and that one makes sense, especially the Jets coming off of looking so shaky and Aaron not being able to really pull the team by himself anymore because, he is 40, so.
Yeah. 2 more that we are in agreement with here in a row. Panthers going to Chicago. Chicago's a much better team. I just want to hear you say that you're taking Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I'll take the Bears. The Bears and Caleb Williams more specifically. I think he's going to be fantastic against this Carolina Panthers team. I think he could make his case for Rookie of the Year.
Yes. Thank you.
Are you excited over there?
Yes, very. I'm very excited when he actually gets crowned Rookie of the Year in 20 weeks. Browns at the Commanders, the current Vegas favorite for Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels. I think they're a much better team. Jaden goes off.
Jaden Daniels, I'll take him, and the Commanders, please.
Patriots hosting the Dolphins. Yet another split here. I'm actually going to take the Patriots. A little sidebar here. I know people are like, Mike McDaniels, he doesn't have his guy Tua. He signed off on this whole Tua thing. So, hey, this is his bed. He's got to lay in it now. And you now have to cope with and try to win with a backup quarterback. And he hasn't been able to do so. So, I'm going with the Patriots. At least I get some level of stability out of the quarterback play. It doesn't mean he's good. But if they could score 11 points and win. So it's like, I'll take the Patriots.
I don't feel great about this one. I'm taking the Dolphins. It's a pick'em game. I think both of these teams are so bad. This is an unwatchable game. This is going to be one where you check the score at the end.
Well, Scott even put that on the screen. Like that, they're not even going to be in the red zone much. It's going to be a lot of between the 30s type stuff.
Yeah.
So that's not even going to flash up on red zone that often.
No, it won't.
Ravens at the Bengals, yet another split here. I'm actually going to go with the Bengals, and there's some interesting data so far this year. I don't actually have it pulled up. I looked at it earlier today, but it's like a 70% clip. Teams that win, and especially when they win resoundingly, they fall back down to earth the following week, i.e. the Buffalo Bills. We had them crowned the Super Bowl, and they got throttled by this Ravens team. I think I get a more desperate team. I get the team at home with Cincinnati, and I get a team that hopefully comes down off an emotional win. I'll go with the stats on this. I'll go with the Bengals.
I'm going Baltimore all day. That team is so talented. You have Lamar Jackson. You have all the weapons out of the backfield. You also have, weapons out of the backfield being Derrick Henry, might I add, who had a fantastic game, and they're getting him more involved. The Ravens, I like everything about that team right now.
I'll go Buffalo at Houston. You'll go with Houston.
Yes.
Especially being the home team. You tend to like home teams. I get that. I fully understand that. I'm actually going to go with Buffalo. I feel like Houston's just not quite. They look really good against average to slightly above average and below. I think when they play some of those upper echelon teams like a Baltimore, Kansas City, I would put Buffalo in there. I don't think they're going to look as impressive as you think. I'll go with Buffalo in a really, really close game, maybe a field goal.
I just think when Buffalo plays a good defense, we saw what can happen there when Josh Allen has to do everything on his own. And I think this, D'Amico Ryans-led defense in Houston is going to be able to do enough to keep Josh Allen kind of just off on his own, where he has to take over all of the run game and, throwing the football. I think it could get ugly for the Bills here. I like the Texans.
Interesting. All right, Jags hosting the Colts. It's actually really telling because the Vegas line is Jacksonville minus 2.5, and we all view Jacksonville as not a very good football team. They're 0-4. The Colts come off of an somewhat impressive win against Pittsburgh. Obviously, without Anthony Richardson, who knows if he's going to play on Sunday. If it is Joe Flacco, if it is Anthony Richardson, I'm still going with Jacksonville. I've seen how many quarterbacks go into Jacksonville from Indianapolis, from these divisional opponents, and they kind of drown a little bit regardless of who the quarterback is, whether that be Gardner Minshew as a Colt, not as a Jaguar, obviously. They, for some reason, traveling to that heat, I'm going to take Jacksonville.
I'm going Colts. I feel like I have
Even Andrew Luck lost there, I remember.
I don't know. I just think there's more talent on that Colts side right now, and I don't trust the way Trevor Lawrence has been playing.
It's fair.
Those are my two things.
It's fair. Vegas at Denver. Denver's a better team. Denver wins, especially being at home.
Yeah, we don't need to spend much time on that one. I'm taking Denver as well.
Cardinals at the Niners, same thing. I think the Cardinals are interesting. I think they're frisky. I think if I'm going to watch this game, it's going to be because I'm betting Arizona maybe. They're not in bets on a budget, but maybe at plus 7.5. It's close for me on that number. But I think San Fran's a better team, so I'll go San Francisco to win outright.
Yeah, especially with that San Fran defense against an undersized, underwhelming quarterback in Kyler Murray.
Could be an uncomfortable day.
Absolutely.
I think that's fair. Packers at the Rams. We're both going to go with the Packers here. A better team, a healthier team. I think it's a different discussion if you have Cooper Kupp, if you have Puka Nacua, if you have the offensive line healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Completely different story. But at this iteration of this team in LA, I'll go with the Packers.
If Stafford had his weapons, I'm going Rams all day. But in this case, it's just Green Bay's the side. And Green Bay money line is looking, the spread is looking pretty good too.
Yeah, I would agree. Giants, I worry a little bit with the travel, but they're going to Seattle.
Wow.
I am taking the New York Football Giants.
Led by who?
Daniel Jones. Top 10 quarterback. No, I'm just kidding. Can't go that far. Top 30 quarterback Daniel Jones. But here's the thing. I like what I saw from New York in that Dallas game. They were able to move the football. They just weren't able to finish in the red zone. Typically, yes. I'm not saying they're going to be a good red zone team, a great red zone team, but that tends to balance out over time, right? Almost like turnovers do. They tend to balance out over time. One score wins tend to balance out over time.
Yeah.
I think the Giants get right in terms of the red zone, and I worry they played on Thursday. They have a really, really long week, a lot of rest. The Seahawks went to Detroit, almost a whole cross-country flight on Monday.
Battled it out.
On Monday in a physical game against a physical football team. This is a perfect spot. Perfect spot for a, no pun intended, sleeping Giant.
There was so much pun intended there.
Yeah, pun intended. You're right. I don't know why I said no pun intended.
I'm going Seattle.
Pun intended.
I'm going Seattle. It's just New York, the Giants?
Yes, the Giants.
Okay.
Dallas traveling to Pittsburgh, Sunday Night Football. I'm taking Dallas because, again, this is a game that Pittsburgh, I told you this past week, Indianapolis is a game Pittsburgh loses. Dallas is a game Pittsburgh loses as well. I would go Dallas. For all of Dallas's woes, I think they're a better football team.
The defense in Pittsburgh versus Dak Prescott and the Cowboys.
Yes, I'm going with Dallas. I know that I have Pittsburgh ranked above Dallas. We don't even have Dallas in the top 14, but I think Dallas is a better team.
I'm going Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh.
I think that whatever. Hey, you do you. And then Saints at Chiefs will both take the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Chiefs all the way. Run us through the splits, and then I have a question for you.
Falcons. I have the Falcons. You have the Bucks. I have the Patriots. You have the Dolphins. I have the Bengals. You have the Ravens. I have Buffalo and Jacksonville. You have Houston and Indianapolis, respectively. I have the Giants. You have the Seahawks. I have the Cowboys coming to Pittsburgh and winning. You have the Steelers winning at home.
Okay. Good splits. I think that'll be good this week. You need to win there. Obviously, climb back on the horse, but we have the splits to do it. 7 splits.
Yeah.
Anyway, my question for you, you mentioned Daniel Jones, and you said top 30 quarterback. Is that generous? Because I think I would take Russell Wilson over Daniel Jones. I think it's arguable there are backups in the league where you could say Daniel Jones is a top 35 quarterback.
So let's do. I mean, we have the time. Let's do a quick Daniel Jones or Daniel Jones or Russell Wilson.
Russ.
Okay. For let's say just this season. Let's go for the next 3 years. Daniel Jones or Drake May.
Probably Drake May.
Okay. Are salaries included in this?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Daniel Jones or give me another good backup. A fringe backup would
Heineke?
No, I would take Daniel Jones over Taylor Heineke. Give me a break on Taylor. Jake Browning.
It's close, but I'd go Daniel Jones.
I would take Daniel Jones. Jameis Winston.
I would probably take Jameis.
I would go Jameis.
Yeah.
I would go Jameis as well. That's interesting. You're right. He may not actually be 30th.
No, he might be top 35 quarterback in the league.
Now, to be fair, I think there are also starters that aren't top whatever guys. There are starters that I think just for a given situation. Jacoby Brissett's not a top 32 guy.
No.
So,
It's just interesting. Yeah, you said that, and I was like, I don't know if the Giants have even a starting quarterback in this league at this point. But either way, we have bets on a budget now. The 5 best lines from around the league that we could find, all spreads. Let's go.
A lot of favorites, which is pretty odd. So we went 3-2 last week. Almost at that 55%. We're at 53% right now. Let's start out with Minnesota minus 2.5 versus the Jets. Of course, Hook's on our side here. We can win by a field goal and still cover. And I do worry about a really physical game. Now, I know Minnesota in a divisional game, but a lot of finesse. That was a 31-20. That was a lot of finesse in that Green Bay game.
Yeah.
I worry that physical, rainy, cold game. Aaron got beat up. Aging offensive line that just faced a ferocious pass rush. Is there a little bit of a hangover?
Bang, hello, here's Minnesota's pass rush.
Right. And then also Brian Flores against that offensive line. I think it's a bad spot for the Jets. I'll go Minnesota.
That's why I think it could get ugly. I think 2.5 is insanely generous.
I think it's about a touchdown.
Like the best line of the week. I don't know if you put it up here as our first one of the week just because it's the best. I'd say the biggest lock. But this is one that I would hammer.
I think that's, I would either just say that or the Chicago -4 versus Carolina. You guys know how I feel on -4. I think when you bet somewhat consistently, there's got to be some rules that you tend to follow, or else you're kind of going to be all over the place. You're going to lose your way a little bit. One of mine is always bet -4 because that's Vegas's way of telling you we think this team's significantly better, but that's the lowest number that you're going to get them at when Vegas is telling you that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously they're telling you San Francisco's better than they play Arizona this week. They're 7.5-point favorites. But that's too high of a number, right? This is 4 is the lowest number where they're telling you what side it is without you having to give up a ton of points.
Yeah, and I love that. 4 is right.
Yep. Washington -3 versus Cleveland. I don't love it at -3. I'd love it at -2.5. It's better because it could be -3.5. Look for it to be up at around 3.5 by the time maybe you watch this or by the time you're betting or whatever.
Do you still like it at 3.5?
Not as much, but I don't hate it at 3.5. I don't hate it. I think it's about a 3, 4, 5 point game, so I don't hate it at 4 or at 3.5. Would absolutely hate it at 4. Yeah. So I would go Washington -3 versus Cleveland. I just worry a little bit because that defense will be easily the best defense he has played thus far. So I know that he has looked really good, and Cleveland's been underwhelming, but that's by far the best defense he's played.
Yeah, and I think Cleveland's also running into a buzzsaw at the wrong time.
Sure.
In Washington.
Sure. Green Bay -3.5 at the Rams. Don't love it at 3.5. Would love it more at 3 or 4, obviously, because the 4, it's them telling me, right? 3.5 is still the Rams are at home. Yeah,
and that could come down to 3.
Could come down to 3. I would almost prefer to go up to 4, so I feel more confidence from the sharps, right? Because obviously money would be coming in on Green Bay there.
Sure.
I would go -3.5 though. I would still still a decent number for us. I still think it's going to be a touchdown game, so we're still covered there, but it's going to be dicey. Could there be potentially a little backdoor cover? You never know. I'll go Green Bay, though, minus 3.5.
Yeah, I like that one.
Our only dog of the week is actually going against our number one team. If you go back to our top 10, would be New Orleans plus 5.5 at Kansas City. Here's the thing, Kansas City, though, over the last, if you even go back to last season, excluding playoff, let's go regular season games, the last 10 games are decided by 4 points or less. So they play tight football games. They had a 1-point win where they had a last-second field goal against Cincinnati. So I like the team. It feels more like a field goal game to me. It feels more like a 19-16, a little bit of a slugfest, especially being at Kansas City. Does it start to get a little wet? Does it get a little start to get a little chilly? Maybe. I'll go Kansas City. Okay. Or I'm sorry, I'll go New Orleans at Kansas City to cover the spread.
Okay. So you started with the first one, which seemed like a lock, and you ended with the last one. Is that your biggest reach, or do you feel pretty good about it?
I would say that is the biggest reach, just because Kansas City at any moment could blow you out.
Yeah.
But I would say the one I have the least confidence in personally, because I almost took Cleveland outright, would be that Cleveland game, because it's such a spot with a veteran defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz, a talented defense, I think overrated, but still talented defense.
Sure.
To kind of flex its muscles against a rookie quarterback. Like, we've seen rookies play well before and then regress to the mean. So I would say that one would be the one I feel least confident on.
Okay, good. Run us back through.
Minnesota minus 2.5, Chicago minus 4, Washington minus 3, Green Bay minus 3.5, and then finally our only dog of the week, New Orleans plus 5.5 at Kansas City.
I like it, guys. Good bets on the board. There's a lot of money on the table. Go make it. TheIssueSports.com is going to get you there. So make sure you subscribe, follow along with the show. But that is all we have for you today. So we will catch you next Thursday. We'll be reviewing Week 5, talking Week 6 action. You're not going to want to miss it. That was The Issue.